All right. Hi. Good morning. Thanks for your help, Johnny Noblet. All right. Let's see. I'll find my comments here. All right. Let's see. Sorry, still working on trying to find my comments. I'll get it figured out here sooner or later. Trying to learn from the streaming master, Nathan Guerra. Slow going. It is. I just don't know where it. Okay. All right, there we go. Hey guys, just figured out what I'm doing here. That's good. All right. No cadence. Oh, yeah. That kind of bugs me when I don't have the cadence, but it depends on how I'm setting up the trainer. But Tuesday mornings is kind of just a recovery ride for me, so nothing exciting. Just kind of a nice high cadence at an easy pace so I can run my mouth instead of my legs. All right, so let me take a peek at these comments. Hi, Frank. Hi, Paul. Oh, you're stuck at work. Frank Deal. Hey, good morning from Roanoke. It's got a special place in my heart now. Met some awesome people there. Irvin, hey, good morning. Let's see. Make sure I can keep up on the comment stream here. All right, so we are back at home in the, oh gosh, I gotta take these headphones off. That helps. Okay. So, what is today? Tuesday? I'm a bit lost still. Traveling kind of throws me off. Frank, did we make it to Carvin's Cove? We did not. We got a chance to actually check out some of the local mountain bike trails in Roanoke, which is so cool. I think it's such an awesome thing anytime you live in a city and you still have mountain bike trails basically out your back door. That is a cool thing. I think a lot of places in the world are just catching on to that. So certain places obviously are a little more lend themselves just by the geography to that. But that was a cool thing. So hi, Robert. Good morning from Australia. All right. So we got to check out something called Mill Mountain. Nice big climb there. We rented some bikes. Got to meet some people from the local shops. So yeah, I guess Carvin's Cove is where it's at for the mountain bike trails, but it was like, I don't know, it came up as like, I think about 12 miles away from where we were at the hotel, which is pretty close to the airport. So we had like the morning on Thursday. Was it Thursday? No, Friday. Friday to get out and ride before we had to catch a 2:30 flight. We just kept weighing it like, oh, we're gonna ride 12 miles out there and then ride somewhere that we're unfamiliar with and ride back and make it to the airport on time. So no, we just checked out the Mill Mountain trails a couple times, which was really cool. Like I said, I mean, you go from the city and then you start climbing this ridge. So that was a lot of fun. You guys in Roanoke there got it made when it comes to all things cycling. Oh, good evening from India. Oh, I love that. I forget Nathan's so good about saying good morning, good evening, good afternoon. To keep my head in that part. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying your evening. Yeah, I was like, oh, we really wanted to go check out those trails, but I was just nervous about making it back. And it was really windy and raining. So we were riding in the rain anyway. That would have been a big day of riding. So, well, for those of you that maybe don't know, last week, Nathan and I went to Roanoke, Virginia to do the first XRS race, experimental race series. Which was super cool. There is recaps and video of it basically all over Facebook. You can find it on Twitch. You can find it on here on Zwift Community Live. So, Mrs. Coach, somebody's giving me a thumbs up there. Yeah, thanks. So it was basically, I'm just gonna kind of chat about that experience this morning, unless there's anything else that anybody is burning to talk about that we can. Oh yeah, awesome! Thank you, Frank, for putting the link to the. Is that the news coverage? Yeah, the news coverage of the event. So cool. So for one, I have to say, the event venue was fantastic. This brewery is just a really cool place. And they had a really great setup. They had almost kind of like it wasn't like a stage, but it was a two-tiered levels in the building. So the riders were all just set up in a row along the length of this really long building. And then just a little bit, couple feet underneath it, where all the tables and the area for all the people to hang out was. So for one, it was just a killer setup. The view, I think, was great. You could really see what was going on. And it's just such a neat way, like for me as a racer, it was such a neat way to be featured, I guess, for you. You spend all this time racing, right? I mean, you put out these just like killer efforts. And it's so neat when you find a way to actually like showcase that to people, like what it is exactly that you're doing. I mean, even in the if you ever watch like the Tour de France, or Nathan and I, we like to keep up with the World Cup mountain bike series. So we watch the coverage of those things. And I mean, gosh, just to get decent coverage of those races is like a major ordeal and setup. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even fathom the stuff that goes into that. And still, it's kind of just a couple of riders, usually at the front, that you get any sort of indication of what the kind of effort they're putting out, what they're thinking in relation to what's happening in the race or the other riders. So this was so neat because all of that is on display right in front of you. So I've been doing Zwift races the last couple of weeks. Now that I'm about 2 months out from my actual race season. So I don't know, I've done 4 or 5 of them now. I have a pretty decent feel for how they play out. And typically I'm racing with the men. I kind of like that part about it, just how you're in a race category based on your FTP, what your power averages are. So that part I like. I think it kind of, it's a really great objective information, like baseline for how you compete against other people. Not just like I'm a woman, so I race against other women, but it was cool. And so in this race, they did have a women's race and a men's race, which is different than what I've been doing in my Zwift races at home. So one part that was just so cool about that is, I'm just lined up shoulder to shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of these other ladies. And I didn't really know who most of them were. I knew Katrina Weiss, but I had never met her in person, which that was the other part about it that was just so cool. So many people who've been using Zwift in whatever that looks like for you. You just get to know other people. But then to meet them in person and to see a bunch of these people all in one place together is so fun. That's one thing I am just loving about this whole thing. You meet someone in person for the first time, but it's like you already know them. So that was cool. So you just lined up shoulder to shoulder with these other riders, and not only are you seeing them on your screen, but you're seeing them right next to you, and you can see what their face looks like and how much they're sweating and their body language. And you can look over at each other and feel each other out and see what's happening in the race all at the same time. And then and just hear everybody cheering each other on at the same time was really cool. A lot of the ladies were saying, "Come on, good job." And so that was a really, really unique experience. Really cool. It was a race right to the line with me and another lady, a young woman named Kate, who's just on her way launching her cycling career. It's really great to just talk with other people about, where they're at and what their goals are. And that part was different too, because usually when I'm in a Zwift race, there's just a huge group of guys, and I'm just kind of trying to hang on for dear life for as long as I can to a big pack, right? But this was so different for me. I had to, was working with and against one other person, and had to make some major decisions about how it was going to play out, and try to gauge in my head how far it was to the finish line and when to put out a kind of effort, and look over at her and see what she's doing, how she's feeling. Man, it's just exciting. And the people there watching were just so into it, so excited, because they have, like, not only can they see the screen, I mean, there's people there watching the stream on their phone and being able to look up and see the riders and see all the action. So yeah, that was a really, really cool thing. So it looks like it's kind of launched a whole new niche, I guess, for Zwift. I'm really looking forward to see what happens with this, and to see more of these events and how they play out. One part of it that I think is really cool is that everyone there is on the same trainer. So everyone is, there's more of a leveling effect than, when people are racing each other from home. I don't know, they're on different trainers. They're calibrated a little differently. So we all got, you had to weigh in, you had to step on a scale and have your height measured before we started this race. I know, everyone's on the same trainer. So, I mean, to that extent, there was a definite, like, legitimate professional feel about the whole thing too. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. Oops, sorry, the mic is moving on me. Let's see. We got to, like I said, we got to get out and ride outside a little bit, which was great. There was, the weather was really nice when we were there. I think it was like unseasonably warm for that area, the same way it has been for us. But I think it was like, I don't know, 70 degrees when we left Charlotte on a plane for a layover, and 27 when we got back home. And now we're in the middle of a huge snowstorm, which we've had maybe like 2 of those all winter, now that it's mid-March. So let's see, Johnny, what would you have done to race it again? A different start? Yeah, the ladies had a different start because they had other people join the women's race who weren't on site. So the start was like a slow roll. So we made sure we had everyone together. And then then there was a point where we were told to just go. So that part, I don't know, was a little bit weird, but necessary for how the setup was. So yeah, I mean, personally, for me, I think having us, to see it grow would be cool, to have more women participate. I mean, that's a thing with any sport, cycling included. I think would make that different, just to have a full on all out race start. I don't know, just make it more exciting. But I don't know that really affects the race all that much. But that would be cool. I think it would be neat to have the option. Kind of like I was saying before, it is nice and it makes sense in so many ways to have men and women compete separately. But Zwift is so unique in that it's just your power, a steady effort, and that you can, you get measurements for it that way. So it might be kind of cool to have races kind of like they do in Zwift, A, B, C, D categories based on your power, regardless of men or the women. I mean, it might be nice to have all the different options, a men's race, a women's race, a race based solely on your power output measurements. I think that would be super cool to see. Yeah. Yeah, Karis is going to beat everyone. My 9-year-old daughter is live on Facebook doing Zwift intervals last night. She gets super excited about that. I'll probably have kids races eventually. I know. I think I've heard something to that effect. People working on it. All right. Let's see here. So part of my experience over the last week, our trip to Roanoke included, was trying to get over being sick. Okay, so today's Tuesday. This past weekend, oh wait, sorry, it's a bit disjointed. I'm gonna look at this comment here from Johnny. Thanks, Johnny. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, this week was Women's Week on Zwift, which I have not really been involved with like I wanted to, because like I said, we were gone, and then coming back and just getting your head back in the game is a little wacky sometimes when you have 5 kids and they're all coming home from grandma and grandpa's house. And then you have to catch up on doctor's appointments and things. So, yeah, Women's Week is super cool. So how important do you think it is to have events like that to recognize different demographics? What I'd like to see more from Zwift as a woman. Yeah, it's just tricky, you know. I think it depends. That's why I think it's important to have options, as many as possible. I know there's a lot of women who, I mean, just to get them involved in cycling at all, whether it's trying Zwift or trying a group ride of some sort, or like for mountain biking especially, it's not something that typically anybody will just go out and try by themselves. I mean, you kind of just need to have somebody with you to show you. So I know for a lot of women to even like kind of take the first step and start getting involved in a sport or cycling in particular, they feel a lot more comfortable when they can do that with other women or in a kind of like women's only kind of format. And I understand that absolutely. I do. So I think that's really important to have that and to grow those kinds of things. But I just like the idea of having options. I mean, for me personally, in being competitive all these years, I don't have a ton of options of other women to ride with. That for one, live anywhere near enough to ride with on a regular basis. Or for two, are at this, a similar level of, I don't know, fitness or skill where we could push each other. So I found most of my training or riding with other people has been with guys. So I like having that option. That's been fun for me in the Zwift races. To just see where you can hang with people in general, with other cyclists in general. So I would love, I mean, personally, in all the different types of cycling events, I would love to see that grow, see options for that kind of thing. There's another woman I've raced with for the last couple years in a local mountain bike series. She won. She won the series last year. I came in second. As far as like where things were at last year, most of the time we raced, she was going to finish ahead of me. It'd have to be like a pretty good day for me, maybe a bad day for her, for me to beat her in a race. And we're buddies. I mean, we're close. We talk a lot. And so it's funny because for us, at the start of our races, so we line up in like 3 waves, basically. They send the pro men off the start line first, and then they send pro/Cat 1 women out like a minute or 30 seconds behind them. And then they send out what they call the comp men. So comp is like the categories near us are weird. So the pro Cat 1 men are together. And then there's comp, which is like, it'd be kind of like if you took a category 2 and split it in half, and it was the high end of like a Cat 2. Because then they have a whole different race, which we call like sport, which is considered a category 2 by USA Cycling. So anyway, it's just kind of funky, I guess. So it's the pro Cat 1 men, and then the pro Cat 1 women, and then the comp men go off behind us. And the pro Cat 1 men do one more lap, usually of the course, than the women and the comp men do. So it's funny because this other girl and I, a lot of times how we try to gauge ourselves and how we did in a race is we compare our times to the comp men because they do the same exact course and the same amount of laps that we do. So we'll compare our times to the comp men, or the way we gauge how we did in a race, because it can just shake down so differently between you and another rider on a course that is as varying and different and technical as mountain bike courses. So we always gauge our races based on like whether or not any of the comp men caught us, which doesn't happen a lot these days, or how many of the Cat 1 men that we caught throughout the course of our race. Because it's hard to compare our times to them because they do an extra lap than we do. Which is another thing that I just think is just kind of funky sometimes about how they split up men and women's racing. It's always a time thing. I mean, typically the fastest women are going to be slower than the fastest men. So it's just a time thing, you know, there's always time constraints on this stuff. But you'd have to split the women up too much into more than this one category to make the times work out, because sometimes even in one category, the difference between the fastest woman and the slowest woman can be huge, where you'll get sometimes the faster, the woman who's winning the race is going to be lapping maybe by the end of the race other women. So yeah, it's really interesting how that whole thing shakes out. But I mean, for me personally, I love to I love the idea of just having all the options, you know. It's really great. I have a couple ladies that I have tried to connect with and ride with over the years, and it's so great to have that, because there's just a sense of camaraderie there, you know, about what it is, what it's like to interact with and deal with the sport that you're in as a woman. But there's things that I gain as a rider from riding and training with the guys that I wouldn't if I didn't do that. So, and I just want to be able to grow in every way I can as a rider. So that's a great question though, Johnny. I in the future I'd like to plan one of my Tuesday morning streams where I could have a couple other ladies join in the chat and talk about some of this stuff. If we hadn't been out of town, if I had had time to think about it and plan it, this would have been a good morning to do that, because it's Women's Week. But I dropped the ball on that one. people joining. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm missing a couple of the usuals in the stream today. It's kind of an inside joke of what I'm drinking my coffee out of each morning. I have an actual coffee mug today. That's a rare thing. All right. I get some water down there. Okay, so it was, let's see, last week, Wednesday, that we left for Roanoke for the XRS event. So we were there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What was it? Last weekend, I was super sick, like the worst stomach flu I've ever had. It was just weird. So it was like, it's probably about Monday before I could actually eat again. In the last, so about the course of the whole last week, pretty much anytime I hopped on the bike, I just felt weak, really weak. So it's kind of a lesson myself. And then so when we were traveling, I was just kind of starting to get my stomach back to normal, where I could just eat without feeling yucky and weird. And we left Wednesday morning in some of the highest winds I've ever seen. So we had this little tiny hopper plane that went from Charlotte to Roanoke. And it was some of the worst turbulence I've ever been in. I seriously almost lost my lunch. I was like reaching for the barf bag. So I've had this whole last week of just not feeling the best and trying to get over being sick. So I mean, I had to rest those days when I was like sick, but then getting over it, your tendency is to try to like, oh, I gotta go hard and make up for it. So I'm having to have to relearn this all the time, like to just back off and be patient with myself, give my body the time to get up and running back to normal, and not try to push these bike workouts that I think I should do to make up for what I missed. So that's tricky, right? I mean, it's, when you're training for something and you feel like you're gonna, I don't know, get behind or let's see, Keith. Hey, Keith. Thanks for joining the comments. Yeah, miss the bike when you're sick. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have times where, we kind of set up our training to really stack it up intensely, where you just know you're going to be tired. So I do have those times where I'm like, oh man, I need a couple days where I just don't even go near the bike. You just are that tired. But that doesn't happen all that often. yeah, my tendency is definitely to be like itching to just get back at it. Johnny's being funny here. As athletes, do you think you're more prone to illness despite all the specialized diet and mushroom juice? Oh my goodness. Yeah, as an athlete, you're definitely more prone to illness, which is part of why I'm a little more vigilant about my health and what I eat. I don't think we've gotten sick a ton this year. Actually, the last couple years, I've tried to get really on top of it so that we're not sick as much. So I kind of had just the one really bad stomach bug this year. Besides that, this winter, I think I had like one tiny cold. I think Nathan had a little bout with like the flu, or like in your body. And then I think he didn't totally get over it and then kind of just got hit with it again. But yeah, you're more prone to it for sure when your body's working hard like that all the time. I mean, after a hard workout, there's all sorts of studies that show for I don't know, maybe like an hour or two, depending on how long or hard the workout was, that your immunity's down for a little while. But there is also the fact that we have a house full of little germy people. So, there's always the battle there. I mean, I know our kids don't go to school, so at least there's not that. We typically tend to avoid the major rounds of illnesses that go around a couple times each winter. But we are at our local YMCA a lot. But yeah, the last year or two, we've actually gotten sick way less than we would have in the past. Nathan and I both, but also our whole family, which is a good thing. Keith, the man flu. I think that's an actual thing. Okay. Keith, do you prefer the island, Richmond, or London? I think I prefer the island. It's funny, before I started using Zwift a ton, what I would do in some of my morning rides on the trainer is I would put on these like nature relaxation videos and just watch all these like different nature scenes. That's something that I know about myself that is just good for me. I enjoy that kind of stuff. So I think I tend to like the island better just because I like what I'm looking at better. That's something I think that is important too. Is I wake up in the morning and ride before my kids are up, so in some way, shape, or form, to use that time to just get my brain quiet and get in a good headspace for the day is it's something I'm like conscious about having in my life. So I tend to log on to Zwift every day when I ride, but there are times when I kind of just have it running either in the background or on a different screen. And I make sure I get outside as much as possible when the weather is cooperating. Have you been up? Yeah, I've been up the volcano climb. It's awesome. I love it. It's funny. Climbing is probably my strength as a cyclist. I think it always has been. So doesn't, I can be like pounding so hard and just hurting up a climb. But since I feel good about it because I know I'm good at it, I guess in my experience of it, I feel like it hurts less than when I'm just like having to keep my cadence up, hammering a flat to try to hang on somebody's wheel. But it probably kind of feels the same to the amount of like hurt that you're experiencing. But I think I'm just built in a way that I can put out some good force against the resistance. I have to tend to try to work on things like a high cadence, steady power, sprint efforts to try to round out like those other parts of the things I need to do well as a cyclist. Yeah, Johnny, there you go. Morning rides before the little guy arrives. Good morning, John Mora. Johnny says, I prefer the climbs even though I'm heavier. Well, maybe that just means you're strong at climbing in some ways. Keith says, do you do yoga as well? Yeah, I do. I do yoga once a week. Next week, I think actually my topic is going to be strength training for cyclists. I thought about talking about that this morning, but we just got back from this trip. It was a great experience. I wanted at least to give some time towards talking about that. But yeah, I think yoga is huge. I think it's so helpful for like what we do has so many repetitive movements. Like I think endurance runners and endurance cyclists to just keep being good at what you do and not cause overuse and repetitive use injuries or weaknesses or imbalances, you have to do some sort of strength training. So yoga covers a lot of bases for me there, but I only do it once a week. And even that is enough for me to see the results of it. So John Moore says, I prefer donuts. Oh my gosh. You and the donuts, buddy. We actually have I can't. John, were you in the stream a couple weeks ago when I told the donut story? I feel like maybe you were. About my son Kyle. How he asks why we can't have donuts like other people. We actually, every once in a while, when that gets on his radar, we make homemade donuts with like a sourdough, homemade sourdough starter that I have. So there is such a thing as like a non-disgusting, chemically donut. It just takes work. You have to make them yourself. You have to pay a visit to Casa de Guerra someday, Mora, and I'll make you some. We'll put you through like a week training camp, Nathan and I. Nathan and I have thrown that idea around a couple times in the past. We might try to organize sometime in the future like a Zwift Nathan Lindsay vision team, other people to training camp week long type thing. That would be fun. Yeah, John, you're welcome too. Your trip just might be a little longer though. We'd love to come visit some of our other Zwift community friends someday too, but plane tickets for 7 people is not cool. Should have like a group discount. Yeah, there you go, John. Yeah, Frank says it's cheaper to charter a small jet. You might be right. That is hilarious. Oh my gosh, Johnny, you're so funny. You need to come to Scotland. It's like England, but we moan about how we don't have what England has and then say we're better. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I'm getting pretty close to wrapping it up here for the day. At least this went better than my stream last week. It's like the ultimate disaster stream. I'm slowly learning how to get the streaming going here from like ZCL Command Central, but it's slow going. Last week, Nathan had set up a workout for me, and I didn't really like it, how he set it up. And so it kept telling me, because you had to hold certain powers for a certain amount of times, it kept flashing big red letters on the screen. Failed. I was laughing about it afterwards. I was like, the stream, the Zwift, it was prophetic. It just kept telling me my stream was gonna fail. I should have just listened to it and bailed from the start. Oh my gosh. The Facebook feed died. My chain started crunching and coming off. The trainer resistance wasn't working. Yeah. All right. Well, I thank you very much to those of you who joined the stream and joined in the comments here. Hope you guys know how valuable that is to have people interacting and input. This makes it so much more interesting. So, hey, Johnny, don't tease me. Karen, hi, good morning. Was like repeating on that stream last week over and over and over. We thought it was bad the day that Nathan was streaming, and some of my vocals from one of my songs was playing in the background, but that would have been way better than hearing me say, Karen, hi, good morning, over and over again. Oh my gosh. Someday I'm going to have to make like a blooper highlight reel stream of all like our live streams, things that have gone wrong or goofy. That'd be hilarious. Someday, Johnny, when you and Nathan aren't so swamped, we'll do that. Including the one of me racing where I'm like, oh, I'm going so fast today. Maybe this Allenby guy will ride with me. Because my trainer wasn't calibrated. Yeah, we could rename all of last week's streams to bloopers. When it rains, it pours, right? Oh my goodness. Hey, Frank Dale, you have a great day too. It was awesome to get to meet you. All right, you guys. Thanks again. I'll see y'all next time.